Okay, everybody. Welcome to the April 2022 Delaware Bicycle Council meeting. Second meeting of 2022. John, why don't you do a roll call?
All right, I will begin. Walt Bryan.
Here.
Fran Kardaki.
Here.
Mac Cochran. Shebra Hall.
Here.
Tom Hartley.
Here.
Scott Hoffman.
Here.
Mike Crumrine.
Here.
Marty Lessner. Jackie McDermott.
Here.
Yvette Morrow.
Here.
Wendy Palasko.
Here.
Mike Tyler. Michael Wagner.
Here.
James Wilson. And Tyler Wright. Okay, with that, we have 10 members present, so we do have quorum. For guests, we have Vince. Could you pronounce your last name, Vince? I'm sorry.
Watchorn.
Okay. And then under attendees, we have Chris Acey with the public, John Bear with Bike Delaware, and Todd, I think, John, if you can do this, might want to transfer to John to panelists, because him and Scott are going to be talking about one of the agenda items. And then we have Bill Weller with Sussex Cyclists and Jonathan Fleming. Are the attendees so far? Okay, Scott, turn it back over to you.
So how are we handling the request from the public folks to be able to speak? Do they, because I don't see them on the screen at all. So can they like raise their hand or something? How do they do that?
Yeah, they can raise their hand.
Okay. All right, so that'll be, so everybody who's attending as a guest, just when we get to item 2 on the agenda, which is the public comment, please raise your hand if you'd like to address the council. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started. So the first item on the agenda is review of the minutes from the February meeting, which John sent out, I believe, last week. Is there any questions or comments on the agenda for John?
You were talking about the agenda or the meeting
The
minutes,
minutes,
Scott?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Because there was one change on the agenda concerning the bicycle safety, programming to improve bicycle safety.
Okay.
That needed to be removed because I believe Jackie
Yes,
had. Okay.
There's no update, so we're going to table that one.
Okay. So with that, then we go to the meeting minutes. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So with
Yes.
that, here are the draft meeting minutes. Okay, go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
Okay, so sorry, everybody, kind of get mixed up there. So, is there any questions or comments on the draft meeting minutes? Okay, going once, going twice. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the draft meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so wait a minute. Was it Walt or Mike Crumrine?
Walt
they
can
can-
have it if he wants.
Okay. Walt. Okay. And then Tom, you seconded.
Sure.
And now Does everybody agree that we are with the motion? If you don't agree, please object verbally, so we know everybody agrees. Okay. Looks like we're ready to move ahead to item 2, the public comment. So if anybody who is our guest this evening would like to address the council, please use your raise hand, or Todd, if you can allow them to speak if they're not sure what to do in terms of the raising the hand function of Zoom.
Okay, I have Bill Weller has raised his hand.
Thank you,
All
John.
right.
Hi, Scott. Yes. I sent some requests ahead of time, and John, you've answered several of them. I haven't had a chance to read them all and digest it, but at the least, I'd like to have them entered into the minutes. Do you want me to go back to my email and ask you the questions that I sent?
That'd be fine. Yes.
All right. Okay. There were 4 of them. The status of the change to Route 1 Kings Highway intersection in Lewis, where the bicyclist was killed in September of 2019. I was asking, what's the status of that? I couldn't find it. I did a search on the DelDOT Projects website, Kings Highway, Route 1, 5 points, and it wasn't there. So that's why I asked this question in particular. And you gave me a link. I think I saw something about that separately.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to address that now because that'll be done later in the meeting under project updates.
Okay. And same with Route 1 parallel shared use path study. I think
that's not in the project updates. However, that is an item for the June Bicycle Council meeting. That will be an item.
Okay, thank you. And then in July 2020, Sussex cyclists provided inputs to the DBC on Bike Route 1 issues in Sussex County. And I wanted to know what's the status of addressing those.
I think that will answer your questions today when we get to old business under Bicycle Route 1 updates that Mike Crumrine is doing. If it doesn't, you can ask Mike that question, or Scott that question then.
Yeah, I'm going to give a presentation kind of looking at some of the alternate routes that you guys presented. And yeah, some of your questions may be answered.
Okay, great. And then last, let's see, John, you answered offline, you answered that, well, I asked about project updates on bicycle related projects that you have in the past presented to the DBC, but I couldn't find them on the meetings and agenda page. You've provided a link that says there's a different web page for that. Could that be included in the minutes or something? Because I last week was looking for an update for our Sussex cyclists and I couldn't find that.
Yeah, I can add that link to the meeting minutes. That's not a problem.
Okay, because you have previously provided a separate document, and anyway, that'd be great.
Yes, I did, but then because the information's on the DBC website, I didn't provide that PDF anymore. They could just go to the link. But for future reference, I will make sure to add the link to the meeting minutes. So in case anybody wants to see that, they can just go right to the link. Not a
I
problem.
appreciate that. And that's all I wanted to ask today. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
And then Scott, I do have a quick announcement, if that's okay under public comment.
Sure.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. As you know, as part of the Delaware Bicycle Program, we loan out bikes to the international students who work here during the summer. Previously, this was done through the ISOP program, the International Student Outreach Program, where they would take the reservations and then coordinate with DelDOT on the safety seminars that DelDOT would conduct. And then as part of that, DelDOT would loan out a bike to that student. When 2020 hit with the pandemic, ISOP canceled their program due to students not coming over and lack of volunteers. 21 was the same. Due to low number of students and volunteers, they canceled their program. And unfortunately this year, they are canceling the program. Last year, it was determined between ISOP and DelDOT that DelDOT should take over completely the bike reservation as well as the safety seminars and bike loan program. So what we did was we launched this website through Delaware.gov, where if a international student needs a bike for the summer, they could go to the website shown at the top of the page, and here there is a bicycle reservation form that they could click on that link, and it'll take them to a form that they fill out. And at the end of the link, they hit submit, and that information is sent to me as well as our bicycle mechanics down in Sussex County. And when we get that information, we schedule the safety seminars, and then when the student completes the seminar, they are provided a bicycle for the summer. So I just wanted to put that out there, that this website is available. And we have already reached out to ISOP. They have put that link on their website to direct any students who need a bike to the DelDOT website to reserve a bike. And as of right now, yeah, again, we were expecting a low number of students again due to the situation over in the European areas. But right now we have 18 J1 students who have requested a bike for the summer. And we do expect more, but we don't know how much, but it's going to be a lot lower number than previous years. So, but this is just a beginning of the website. We understand there's going to be lessons learned along the way, that the website may need to be tweaked a little bit, but we believe this is a good start, and this will help make it an easier process. Now that DelDOT, gets the reservations directly, we can then schedule the safety seminars and then loan out the bikes. So we're pretty excited about this. So I just wanted to let the council know about this.
That's awesome. So John, I have a question regarding the bikes. Like, do you guys need more bicycles?
We have a lot in stock. I mean, in our bike loan, we loan out typically 200 to 250 we have on loan, but I mean, we have well above that in inventory, but we do still accept donations. So,
Oh, okay.
because, there's always that at the end of the summer, we go through our inventory, get rid of the bikes that are really can't be used anymore. We'll just take parts off of them. But yes, we still accept donations.
And where do those go?
You can either get up with me, or I can give you the contact information for a bicycle mechanic, but he's down in Lewis. So
Okay.
if it's from you, just get up with me, and then I'll take the bike down there. So
Okay.
Says Jonathan Fleming has raised his hand.
You there, JT?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. My question for that sounds like a great opportunity. Is there maybe a flyer or anything like that for people who could donate bikes? What the criteria would be for what type of bikes you're looking for? If they want to contribute to your stock.
I don't have it with me, but last year we prepared a flyer that we handed out. If you want to, you can give me your contact information and I can send that to you. I mean, we want them in rideable condition. We're not looking for any of the small BMX bikes. They're the typical adult bicycles that we're looking for in good riding condition. So, but
Okay.
I can get you more detailed information. Just send me an email and I can get that to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh,
Seems
hey,
like a
Jonathan.
Good thing
We're-
to post on our website, John.
Yes, I was going to do that too. I was going to make that, let you know too, that I was going to put that on the website also. And then Jonathan, were you just here to attend or were you representing anyone, just for my records?
I'm here just to attend. I am working, I'm speaking with James Wilson of Bike Delaware, and trying to get involved with the cause of, bicycle transit in the Delaware area, and just try and see what I can do to help further things along.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Got any other public members? Okay, so on to new business. The first two items are related to the 2022 cycling infrastructure grant. John, can you pull up, pull up the application?
Yep, okay. Right now, this is the first, what you see is the standard letter that is typically sent out.
Okay.
So I don't know if anything needs to be changed in that. And then here is the application. And before you get started, Scott, I just want to let you know, I can't make any guarantees, but I am working with our DTI section to get this application on the DBC website so that instead of email or sending out these paper copies, we're hoping to have a link that we can send out that the municipalities can go to the website and then just fill out this application online and submit it instead of having to, send out the paper copies and then have them send in or mail in an application. So I am working with our
okay.
DTI section on that. So we're hoping to get that done end of April, early May.
Is there still going to be an option to download and submit a paper form, or will it be
Yes.
only digital?
Yes, my thinking is, unless the council has something different, is to still have an option where they can download the PDF.
Yeah, that was my recommendation.
Okay. So anyway, this is, as of right now, the paper copy or PDF version. Unless I've missed something, the only thing that I changed was just updating the dates. 2022 due near the end of August, which is 26. The funds need to be transferred by the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, 2023. But everything else has remained the same. So did not know if the council is still okay with that. Do they think anything needs to be added, subtracted based on either last year's or previous year's applications, if anything needs to be changed?
Yeah, I
this
was
time.
trying to remember whether there was anything that we wanted to change or not. I can't remember now.
I don't
I
recall.
have
Oh, go ahead, Fran.
I thought I remembered there was some discussion at some point of, is this strictly limited to municipalities? Like if Sussex Cyclists or White Clay had a project they wanted to submit, would we be open to something like that? And if we are, there's verbiage in both the letter and the application that kind of preclude that.
Yeah, I mean, the intent from this grant from the beginning, since I was here, was that it was only open for the any Delaware municipality or any of the 3 county offices. So Kent, Newcastle, and Sussex. I don't think it was going to be open to any private entities.
That's the
So
way the original legislation read.
yes, yes.
So this
Okay,
wouldn't, this,
I knew,
I'm sorry.
I thought, like I said, I thought there was some discussion of it, but like I said, you know, the application and the letter both preclude anybody other than a municipality or one of the 3 counties from applying.
So as somebody like that, Fran, the groups that you're talking about, they would have to have basically a municipal sponsor then for their project essentially.
Yeah, or a county, like if White Clay
Yeah.
Creek, depending where it is in Newcastle County, if it's not within a city limit, then they would reach out to Newcastle County and pitch the idea to see if they're willing to.
But we don't really advertise with those groups either, do we? Like, we don't send these to them.
We only send it out to the municipalities and the county offices.
Well, that's the reason the Freeman Corporation on the trail from Cool Spring to Milton, that's the reason they went to Sussex County, that Sussex County didn't know anything about it. Remember?
Yes, yep. So, okay, Todd, Jonathan has a question.
Yes, so this application you're talking about, it's the municipalities. So if residential developments, would they essentially have to go to the county that they are in to request, you know, having grant money put towards a bicycle pedestrian connection, like going through their, say, their open space or something like that, if it's an older community that doesn't have that connectivity?
That's
The way
a
the
little
law
tricky.
reads now, yes.
Yeah, that could be a little tricky. I mean, if it's within their municipality, I mean, yes, they could go to their municipality if it's in their master plan. Because that's also one of the requirements, is that the project that's being submitted is part of a master plan. Because that's how it's graded or rated when submitted, that it's as you can see here, here's some of the criteria. It's a missing link, it avoids a hazard. But here's one, that it's part of an actual master plan. So I guess if it is a community, they would need to go to their municipality to see if it is a viable project that the municipality is willing to try to get grant money for.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, it's John, I think it's worth noting the fact that that is just one criteria. If it's not part of a master plan, it could absolutely still fly.
Yes.
But the whole idea is to leverage the innovation grant to basically a larger project that would have to be funded by somebody. So that just kind of makes sense that you would have some kind of county or municipal backup. And I think what we did do, answering Fran's question earlier, what we did was we expanded to the counties, because I think at one point we were only municipalities and not the counties, right?
That is correct.
Yep. So
Yeah, the one thing I'm thinking, to the questions that JT and Fran asked, is that we're only sending these to municipalities, and we've gotten a really good response the past couple of years. I mean, we've gotten plenty of applications, but that doesn't mean that there's other groups out there that would be interested in saying, hey, we have an idea, we can try to work that through our local government entity. So maybe we should do some more advertisement.
So are we in a position where if a private group, say Sussex Cyclists, had an idea, or what Walt was saying about the Freeman Corporation, If they had an idea or, something that they wanted to do, we would direct them to the appropriate entity that could actually submit an application. Are we in a position to do that?
Certainly, I would think we would be. It's not.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that not be a responsibility of the Delaware Bicycle Council?
I don't know, because, if you go back to the thing with Milton and, that project that Sussex didn't know anything about, they got blindsided and it didn't work out.
Well, that was the result of a couple of inept people trying to do something they didn't know what the hell they were doing anyway.
Yeah, that was miscommunication, so to speak, between two parties. So
Right.
unfortunately that occurred, but as long as White Clay Creek or Sussex cyclists should think they have a project that is viable, and they contacted anyone on the council or myself about this grant, we would then say, hey, well, you would need to reach out to that county office and discuss that with them to see if they're willing.
Yeah,
to,
that's all I'm saying is that's probably something we should be willing to do for somebody is at least steer them in the right direction.
Yep, exactly.
Well, let me, Scott, let me make this suggestion.
Go for it.
And I'll volunteer to be the guy from Sussex County. And also, oh my God, I know his name is, what in the hell is his name down there? He's on here, down there in Bethany. Well, Bill, I couldn't think of Bill Weller. Bill and I could get our heads together, and anybody else that wants to get involved, but we ought to have somebody from each county submit suggestions and then come up at the next meeting in a couple of months. And then, so we meet again in June and we could adopt something in August. And that's about the time when new applications are going out. Is that not right, John?
Well, August is when applications are due, end of August.
When do you mail them out?
Typically it's end of April, beginning of May.
Well, in any event, if a few of us were to get our heads together, we can change that ordinance, whatever it is. That's not a problem, but it's got to be documented so it can be funded. And it
Yeah, I
could
don't know.
be,
Is that likely to happen for this grant cycle though?
no, it won't.
Okay.
But it'll happen for the next one. Unless we do something now, it won't happen for the next cycle. That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Well, the question on the table is, do we want to move ahead with what John has prepared here tonight for 2022? And it sounds like there's possibly opportunities that we need to look at, maybe opening this thing up in the future, but I know that we could advertise to those people, especially if John is able to set this up as a link on the website, then it becomes very easy to get this information into other people's hands. So
make a motion to move forward with the documents that were created.
I second it. Let's go.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, now on to the bigger lift. We need some volunteers for the working group. John, how many do we usually have?
About 5. Yes.
Yeah,
5.
5 works out pretty good. So just kind of speaking from experience, the way it usually works out is we have a couple people that go to the site meetings for the ones that are reviewed. I mean, Fran, I don't know, it's a couple hours commitment for each one that you go to typically. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
depends on how much driving you have to do,
Yeah.
where you live and where the meeting is.
And then we had some virtual ones last time. So that was helpful.
I mean, some of those site visits are just hugely enlightening.
Yeah. So I've found it to be an interesting exercise, and you're really talking to people. You really get an idea of how much people are. There's ideas about improving, bicycle networks and pedestrian networks around different areas. That some people have a really passion for this thing. So I'm glad to participate again, John.
All right, so Scott, you're nominating yourself.
I guess I'm nominating myself. Yes.
All right.
I'll participate.
Walt,
I think we're looking for 5 people though.
Yeah, I'm gonna be away pretty much all summer. I'll only be back here for a couple of weeks, in August and September, and then I'm gone again.
I'll help out.
Sorry. So I can't play this year.
okay, so I have Mike Wagner.
My schedule looks pretty bad, but is it possible for me to nominate James since he's not here?
He's done
Is
it pretty
James
much
not
every
here
year he's
yet?
been on the council.
Well, it is handy that he's up north and frequently his schedule has a little bit more flexibility than some others,
I think we should nominate James. I agree. I
especially
second
since
that
he didn't
nomination.
show up tonight.
All right, that's 4.
So we've got a Kent County, we have a Newcastle County, well, we have 2 Kent County, we have Sussex County. Well, guys, we gotta have one more person.
I'll do it again this year. I missed it last year.
All right, Mike.
All right, so the nominations are Scott Hoffman, Walt Bryan, Michael Wagner, James Wilson, and Michael Crumrine.
Do we need to have a vote on that, John?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Is everyone in favor of the people who nominated themselves?
Yeah, I'm for it.
Sure.
And James, because he didn't nominate himself.
All right, so then those are the 5 representatives for the working group.
And I'll volunteer to be the chairperson.
Okay,
Fran usually does it, so she's not gonna be around. I'll fill
Sorry?
in for that this year.
I'm sorry, Scott, what?
I said, I think that you usually are the chairperson for the the grant working group. So since you're not gonna be doing it this year, I'll volunteer for that.
Yeah, I have been for several years, but I'm just not gonna be here, so I wouldn't be of any use to you guys this year.
He can zoom in.
Yeah, that makes it a little tough.
All right, the next item is related to John did a presentation for us at the last meeting, John Bear, on some signage issues. And what we were asked to do was to come up with, I guess that you can call it some policies on, well, I won't say properly, on how we think, like the folks that prepared the memo, how we'd like to see signs applied on, I guess we'll call it multimodal pathways. We had a lot of good discussion last time. I think, and John, chime in if you want to. The basic issue is that it seems like there's a lot of signs. There's this issue with the Delaware yield and whether you should have a stop sign or whether it's necessary. It seems like there's not a uniform application of the placement of signs. So John put together, and then I took a look at it. We tried to come up with basically a pretty simple rule set, or I guess is the way to say it, for application of signs, and obviously we're not the people who do this every day, so this is, the idea is to get this going. But we'd like to have a little bit of discussion about what people think. If you've noticed any issues, I think John does have some pictures that he sent to John earlier about some things that were kind of the genesis of this whole idea.
Well, let me chime in here, Scott. The genesis, the genesis of this idea was in October of 2017 when John Carney signed the Bicycle Friendly Delaware Act, making Delaware the second state ever and the first state in 35 years to make it legal for bicyclists when the coast is clear. I got to point out to Walt, when the coast is clear, to treat stop signs as yield signs. I sat on it for 4 years until Governor Carney signed it into, and the legislature voted it in to be a permanent part of Delaware law. So I think some of the opposition that has come up, it certainly came up in the last meeting, and it sort of gelled in my mind in the last 2 months talking to Scott, is that, oh, gee, the MUTCD doesn't allow for this or that or the other. Well, the MUTCD is it's like having a 2021 computer and trying to use the 2011 operating manual to make it work. So I had been, and frankly, at the time being 5 years ago, I was not aware of the proliferation of bicycle stop and bicycle yield signs, and they were not on my radar screen at all until I started riding the Lewis Georgetown Trail. But the stop signs had been. It really came to a head, I think, mostly through riding the Lewis Georgetown and the Lewis Rehoboth Loop. And the first thing that was obvious was there's an awful lot of signs, and that's what Scott has already said here. But from a what I'll call a legal point of view, or even the very, the MUTCD itself, the stop sign as stop doesn't mean stop, except in a very few number of cases. Now, John, can you show, this would be a good opportunity, I think, to jump into some of these pictures that I have. No, did you get stuck? The ones I sent? Yeah, there we go. Walt, the first one is especially for your sake. This is an intersection that has come up a lot of time. This is where the Lewis Georgetown Trail hits Gills Neck Road. And you said you wanted 3 or 4 enormous stop signs down there. And even though a stop sign is not required, and actually cyclists are not required to stop here, it is a yield, to be treated as a yield sign. I think a better judgment would be to put something there. What Scott and I had tried to come up with was a way to come up with sign recommendations that would generate respect by the users for the signs that are put up. And having an array of stop signs is not the way to generate that. The next picture is over in Cape Henlopen State Park, and these are legacy signs for sure. They say stop. There's small signs. I've seen some other small signs around in Newcastle on the historic Newcastle Trail. I think it's even a 12-inch diameter, if an octagon can have a diameter. 12-inch sign. There's a number of 18-inch signs, and I think this is a 24 or maybe an 18. It's not terribly offensive, but it's in a position, my understanding of this whole thing kind of has become a mixture of stop signs versus yield signs, and then the bicycle stop sign and bicycle yield sign, which I think Scott and I both agreed have almost no place. So if you could go to the next picture, John. I don't want to build. The next one is also in Cape Henlopen State Park. Clearly, again, a legacy sign. One's on a trail, the other's on a stop. And this is a case where the what I'll call the motor vehicle traffic lane has a stop sign. So not only does I'm not sure what path this is, I'm going to call it the Gordon's Pond Trail, although it's just, I think it's just a Cape and Lopin State Park Trail. There's even
bike
less
loop.
bike loop. Okay. There's even less reason to have a stop sign here because they actually have the right of way and stop signs don't mean stop there. One of the things that Scott had recommended, or we had come up with in our talks and was part of the letter, was using a sign which is most definitely not called out in the MUTCD. We both agreed with that, but it was one that made some total sense to us, was cycles use caution on places that, you know, cycles need to be cautioned, but there was no reason in case to stop. What John Fiore had asked was, could we find some examples in other states? And frankly, since Delaware is the only state east of the Mississippi where stop means yield, it's kind of hard to get examples of what other states had done. In terms of bicycle stop or bicycle yield, I have not seen any. The only other place that I've spent a lot of time is Chincoteague, Virginia, and they have a lot of trails and no bicycle stop or bicycle yield signs. This one on the right-hand side of the screen is at White Clay Creek State Park, the intersection of Paper Mill Road and Polly Drummond Hill Road. And while the stop sign would be considered a legacy stop sign, that's a busy intersection. And the slow down, look for traffic is at least an alternative sign that doesn't paint cyclists as scofflaws for not stopping at a stop sign, as most motorists and other people think they are. Next slide, John. These are some more trails down in the Lewis area. The one on the left is in Senators. When I first went through there 3 years ago probably, I was aghast at all the stop signs that were littering this sidewalk down the middle of this dual carriageway, using a British term. A lot of them are now missing, and it's a lot cleaner, but it was kind of troubling at the time. Jumping over to the others, the top one is in Lewis. It's a stop sign. I think these are probably Lewis controlled signs rather than DelDOT controlled signs, but it doesn't really matter to us, to people as a cyclist. Here's a stop sign at a cross street that ends at the right-hand side of your picture. There's a closed gate for some sort of maintenance yard there. And it just makes no sense, aside from the fact that it doesn't mean stop anymore. My favorite slide of all of them is this stop somewhere in Lewis, because there's no street signs and I don't know where I am down there. This is a screenshot off a GoPro of, here's a little girl, probably 6 years old, on a bike, her sister on rollerblades, and her mom jogging along. And there's a stop sign hidden behind some pole or another. And did any of them stop? Of course, they're not required to, because they're not a vehicle or a bicycle or motor vehicle. And it just made me smile to see them just charge right on through here. Clearly, there wasn't a big reason to stop. Next slide, John. The one on the top left is a stop sign, again, at some unnamed intersection, because there's no road signs. So I think John Fiore is taking care of that for me. I do think this is Ritter Lane. Just it's an unlaned road. I don't think in the probably a dozen times I've ridden there, I've ever seen traffic coming at all. So not a lot of even yielding to do. There's plenty of notice with these bollards that something is coming up. So there's roadside markings. The one on the top right, again, an unknown to me road. There's certainly ample evidence to any awake person that maybe I should be on the lookout for something. It doesn't require a stop sign. A stop sign would be required if this were we're crossing 3 or more travel lanes, but this is a 2-lane road. Again, I can't tell you what it is. And then
It should be Sweetbriar.
I'll take your word for it. The bottom one is, I think, the only bicycles yield sign on that part of the trail. And again, I don't know what road it is. It might, I think there's a driveway in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's basically a driveway.
Yeah, and again, I've never seen any traffic there. If you wanted to put a yield sign there, Scott and I had some conversation at length that people recognize stop easily. They recognize yield easily. And the use of the bicycle, unless you've got a lot of motor vehicles going down these two paths that I've never noticed, these signs are supposed to be used when they might be mistaken or confused by a motorist using this piece of asphalt. And again, wherever I've seen them, I haven't had a lot of conflict with motor vehicles. And the one in Cape Henlopen Open State Park, where there's stop signs all around, nobody seemed to be confused on that one either. Next slide, and I see Todd has raised his hand. These are the last two slides. These are over on the Cape Henlopen loop. And again, using I don't know what confusion there would be for motorists here, where if someone was headed south towards the ferry, which is the direction I'm riding at this point, who's going to yield to whom, that would be confused for, motorists might confuse it for a yield sign. And the final one on the bottom right, I have to say, I was stunned to try to figure out what it was. I'm not saying that it was a good sign or bad sign, but it was a yield sign going across a crosswalk to nowhere. And I would say, in this situation, maybe a good old plain stop sign would be the thing to have to get some attention. Anyway,
So John,
yeah.
I was going to ask John to pull back up the memo and we can just hit on the four things. So kind of the four things that we landed on in terms of the sign application, which we'd like to ask DelDOT to take a look at, is that they would use a regular stop sign on trails and multimodal pathways at intersections with public roads with more than 2 lanes. And I put in there typically major collector or higher functional classification. I don't know if that's exactly right. I guess you could have more than 2 lanes on other roads. Or at an intersection with any traveled way where bicyclists have an inadequate view of conflicting vehicle traffic. So where you have sight distance things and it becomes a safety issue. The second suggestion was that at intersections where the Delaware yield law is applicable, that it basically just be a yield sign, is what number 2 boils down to. Number 3 was to try to cut down on the number of signs along multimodal pathways where bicycles basically, and pedestrians for that matter, have the right of way. I think John showed one example of that in the photos. There's a couple that I ride on that is also something that happens. And then we're not sure who's supposed to be going because the bicycle has a stop sign and the car thinks that the bicycle is supposed to go. Except if there was a safety issue, like a sightline issue, and then that's where we had suggested the warning sign. And then in terms of the bicycle stop and yield signs, the MUTCD does state that that's where there's a potential visual confusion for motorists. And I guess the question there is we're not exactly sure what that means. So that is in essence what I think it's a simplification overall. If you look at the examples that John showed, it seems like there's a lot of different things that are done, and the idea is to kind of come up with a more uniform approach. So I don't know if everyone's had a chance to take a look at this. If anybody supports the idea, if anybody doesn't agree with we should be doing anything, what do you guys think?
Hey, Scott this is John, real quick. Shebra, and I think she's on here, did indicate a typo.
Yeah,
And it's right here, it says when it doubt. Maybe I think she said it should be when in doubt.
yeah.
So,
I
okay,
just didn't get a chance to fix that yet. So,
no problem. Just want to make sure you,
I mean, we're not going to send this unless it's supported by the council, and obviously, I don't think, I'm not in a position to make a motion since I helped
Scott,
write it, so.
Scott.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of reflection and thoroughly listened to the presentation, and I can't, whatever the council votes, they vote, but I can't support this at this time. To me, the whole thing doesn't pass the 12-year-old test. I don't think that, kids under 16 know how to yield. And I don't know what, I looked at some of those signs and there were places that I actually thought the stop sign was very appropriate. So, I'm okay with how the council votes, but there's something here that just doesn't, I'm okay with the cyclists knowing that they don't have to stop if they've properly scanned the area. That's what the intent of the law is, but actually removing the sign in place of a yield sign, I'm not sure that, that youth who are allowed to ride bicycles crossing 2-lane roads in some areas where I see trees, right? I see trees to the left where there is no visibility. I'd rather have the stop sign there. And if the kid doesn't use, I would hope that most 10 to 12-year-olds know how to spell stop and know that a red sign means stop. I'm not sure how many of them really know what the yield sign is. So while I'll respect the council's vote, I can't support it at this time. It's just in my thinking, something here, I think we're close, but it just doesn't do it for me. So I appreciate all the hard work that was done. I just can't support it.
Okay, that's fine, Mike. We're looking for other perspectives that's why we have a council with the different folks on it, so. Anybody else?
2 cents worth is that I like the yield sign idea because of the fact, and sort of gone along with the same idea, that where we do have blind intersections and that kind of thing, and you have places where you have decent sight lines and that kind of thing, you normally put a yield sign. But just like at the end of the trail there in Lewis that ends at the canal, and you don't have good sight lines, you put up a stop sign to kind of reinforce the fact that this is different. And don't be surprised, before you get to the intersection and find yourself right out in traffic.
Yeah.
That you can't see. So that's my 2 cents worth. I support it.
I'll throw in a little bit. When I first read this letter, I wasn't really sure, because I missed last meeting. I wasn't really sure what was going on. And then I went back and read the minutes and all the back and forth. And my initial take was that if you're somebody like Tom who rides a lot and knows what the law is, knows that, the stoppage yield law exists, and is able to use it, then, I think he can justifiably kind of ignore a stop sign knowing that he can treat it as a yield sign. But somebody who is not local, somebody who is an occasional rider, I'm not sure not having that big red sign there is a good thing. That sometimes they need that reminder that says, hey, you're not first up here. The cross traffic doesn't stop. And if you just go blowing out there, you're going to get hurt.
Oh, the stop as yield law, section 4196A, makes it very clear that it's if the coast is clear, to dumb it down.
Well, I understand the law, John,
That's what yield
but
means.
I've been stopped by police who didn't.
I'm just waiting
God,
for that opportunity.
Yeah, and it was, we actually were riding through Wyoming one night. We went through a stop sign as a group. We went through a stop sign and it happened to be the Wyoming chief of police standing on the corner yelling at us, hey, you can't do that. So I turned around and went back and talked to him. But if the chief of the Wyoming Police Department doesn't know that, the stop is yield sign exists, there's a lot of other people that don't.
Well, the
Yeah, I
flip
agree
side-
with Fran.
So, so there is a couple issues here that are buried in this thing. One is the stop is yield. The other is, there is signs that are on the multimodal pathways that really seem like, at least to me, they don't make any sense. One of them is if you're on a pathway riding parallel to a road and you come up to like a driveway to a business or something, and there's a bicycle stop sign. Does that mean if I'm on the bicycle, I'm supposed to stop? And if the person driving the car is getting ready to turn in, are they expecting me to stop? Even though I thought I learned as a driver that I'm supposed to yield to people that are walking down sidewalks.
But
So
we're not walking if we're on a bicycle. We're not pedestrians. It's not the same thing.
they don't have to yield to bicycles, is that right?
No, not if we have a stop sign, they don't.
So, okay, so my confusion is, if there's somebody walking next to me, they can keep going, but if I'm on a bicycle, I'm supposed to stop.
Well, they
Is
have to be in the crosswalk to have the right of way. So
Okay,
you don't know how you get those standoffs where somebody's on the sidewalk and they haven't stepped off yet. So you're driving by and you're like, oh, do I stop? Do I not stop? It's that sort of thing. But it's kind of clear for a bicycle because, if the stop sign is meant for a bicycle, it's a stop sign, and that's, and I find them at driveways like that to be very annoying, and I treat them as yield signs. But, if you got a 12-year-old, maybe not such a good idea to treat it as a yield sign.
okay.
Well, they are yield signs.
Well, I'm gonna say that if you went into a middle school classroom and asked, they wouldn't know.
Well, the flip
And
side
neither
of
would their
that,
parents.
yeah, sadly, the flip side of that, Fran, is that because it says bicycles yield, and I've done this test by asking a lot of people, when it says bicycle stop, that means bicycles must stop. I mean, even though there's no other reason for them to stop. And so we get painted as a scofflaw cyclist.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with
Obeying
that.
the law.
Yeah, I get it. And that's why, they annoy me. And I've spent many, many miles on trails, not necessarily in Delaware, but, where it seems like there's a stop sign every 10 feet.
Well, they should get with the program.
On the flip side, we've been able to help educate law enforcement and driver education to the graduated driver's license laws. Like, so, police officers have to know a lot of laws, and when a student shows their graduated driver's license, there's not a whole lot of information on there. So when we actually had this put into the computer program of law enforcement. So when you type in a student's number, like driver's license number, it'll pop up. Let's say it's Scott Hoffman, who's 16 years old and he's driving to school, and it'll pop up if he gets pulled over on the way to school and he's driving by himself. It'll pop up based on the date of issue of Scott's license. It said, "Hey Scott," the officer said, "Hey Scott, I just pulled this up on the computer. You're in your first 6 months of driving. Where's the sponsor in your car? Where's the person supposed to be teaching you how to drive during your first 6 months?" That actually comes up on the computer screen of law enforcement. So that was a way to educate law enforcement. And I think that kind of piggybacks, Fran has learned the law. And so she treats stop signs as yield signs, which is what the law says. So again, I'm just kind of pointing out that an experienced cyclist should know those laws. And that's why they get that courtesy they know how to scan ahead. They can go through a stop sign, whereas some people may not know that. So again, that's just where I'm at, and I respect whatever the council decides to go, but I just wanted to point out where Fran went back and told the police officer had to educate law enforcement on it. We've had to educate, we've had to put some things in place to help law enforcement with the graduated license law so that we could tell someone in their second 6 months who has 2 people in the car who might be coming home from who might be out driving at night that gets pulled over, the law enforcement says, you can only have 1 person in the car, you can't have 2 to that student driver. So anyway, just threw that out there, and thank you guys for listening.
Hey, John, James needs his mic turned on. I think he wants to say something.
I thought he just said,
Am I unmuted?
we hear you.
Okay. Hey, I just had a quick question, Mike. Did I understand you correctly that you said that you don't think children understand? They understand stop signs, but they don't understand yield signs?
Do I think that? I don't want to bet. I don't want to bet my life on it. I mean, if we have in the grant letter, does it pass the 12-year-old test? Well, as a dad who would send my kids cycling on a bike path, I would be more than comfortable sending my kids on the bike paths that have been done down at Cape Penelope that I've ridden, and I'm comfortable with the stop signs there. But I would not necessarily be comfortable with not having a stop sign there when it crosses a 2-lane road. That's just, even with some of the pictures I saw.
Is it fair to say that's sort of the essence of your objection? So you don't have any, you don't have a problem with putting a yield sign up in those places for any adult cyclist? Your concern is specifically for kids.
My concern is specifically for kids, and again, not really knowing if a 10 or 12-year-old knows exactly how to handle a yield sign. I was actually in the car today with a first-time driver who needed a few extra seconds to understand what the word yield meant during her first drive, and luckily we were in a neighborhood where it was somewhat safe, and it was luckily that the driver education teacher had a break, and that's why we have such the training that we do, so that the teacher can talk the student through a situation that they may have learned on paper but haven't really experienced while they're behind the wheel of a car. And that's and so again, that's my world. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to second Mike on that. I've got a 16-year-old son learning to drive, and I can tell you, amazingly enough, he's a smart kid, but he didn't quite understand the concept of yield when we first started driving. So
It doesn't sound like we have a consensus here on this memo.
Scott, do you want to? So it may be that we don't have majority support. Would you like to just sort of we may have to come back to this if there isn't a majority support, but would you like to just have the council take a vote on the letter now, just to kind of see where we are, and then if it doesn't pass, we can have some more discussions.
A test vote.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the letter, and we can just see where we are.
Okay.
I move the council support the draft letter. Authorize Scott to send it.
And we need a second.
I'll second.
All right. So Scott, I will, if you want, I'll just go down the list of all council members present.
We should do a count, yes.
And then they can say yay or nay. You okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I'm going to start.
Explain the motion again, please.
James, go ahead.
Authorize the Scott to send the draft letter on behalf of the council.
And the draft letter, as I read it, suggests that the yield signs be removed or be replaced and the stop signs removed. Is that right?
Replace stop signs with yield signs. Except where visibility is poor. So if any place where you've got poor visibility, you leave the stop signs.
Okay.
All right. You good, Walt?
I understand, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go down the list. So Walt, are you yay or nay?
Nay.
Fran?
I'm nay for the moment. I may be convinced with more, but for now, nay.
Okay. Shebra?
Can I abstain?
I don't see a reason why you can't.
I mean, I just don't know enough about this. So, and you know, it's no secret. I'm here because I believe that people should be able to ride their bike safely for physical activity. I don't really know about the laws. So, so I'd like to abstain.
Okay. Tom,
I'm in favor.
all right. I don't think you're allowed to vote, Scott, right? Since you wrote the letter?
Scott
Okay.
can vote. He's
He
the chair of
can?
the
Okay.
council.
Oh, absolutely, he can vote.
All right. I just want to make sure. Okay, Scott.
I'm voting yes.
Okay. Mike Crumrine,
I am nay.
Jackie,
Nay.
Yvette,
I'm voting nay. I know the point was made about children, but I am of the belief that there is still a very large majority of adults that still do not know about the yield and stop. So I'm saying nay.
okay, Wendy,
I'm gonna nay on this one, John.
all right, and Mike Wagner. Oop, are you there, Mike? Are you muted?
No.
Okay. That's all the council members who were present. So we have,
John, you missed me.
oh, I'm sorry, James. James.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. All right, now, okay, voting is completed. We have 3 yeses, 7 noes, and 1 abstain. So as of right now, it would appear the motion did not pass.
Okay, so John, do you want to revisit this with some of the concerns that were expressed by the folks who I think it falls into a couple groups, need more information,
It sounds like
doesn't address all the safety concerns.
it sounds like the main concern is the one. I mean, there might be some others, but my main takeaway was Mike Wagner's. You know, he about children on trails. So if there's gonna be a follow-up discussion, my suggestion would be John and Mike. You know, you guys can have a little bit some discussion between the two of you and see where that goes.
Okay. So with this, may or may not be on the meeting agenda for next month. I'm pretty sure John's not giving up yet, though. So,
I got a question. Maybe we could kind of flip this a little bit. If we look at the bike council as a marathon and not a sprint, how can we best educate everyone on the law about what it means for bicycles, the stop law for bicycles with the stop sign? You know, how to best educate people like that. Maybe that's another way to look at it as well.
Mike, is it fair to say that, like, if every single kid in the state of Delaware was taking a bicycle education class just automatically, that you would probably look at this question differently?
I think I would. I mean, you know, I'd probably look at it much differently if we did that. Definitely. I mean, I'm going to actually have a slide later that shows the information that you gave me from the Netherlands, which I think is very telling. And again, as I'm getting older and I'm in near my mid 50s, when I see the success that Delaware has had in developing numerous bike trails over the past 30 years, and that's how long I've been in Delaware, I think it's amazing. But also looking at when I spent time in Denmark 30 years ago and seeing from all the documentaries I watched or news reports from like Real Sports from HBO, seeing how safe it is to bike in Denmark and the Netherlands, I think we have a ways to go. But I think we at the Bike Council could possibly help to facilitate that.
John and James, I have a couple other ideas on ways that we may be able to get people's opinions about some of these things. That can be done offline as well. So, Okay. That was a good discussion. Can we move on to the Gordon's Pond Boardwalk widening study?
Wait,
Sure.
wait, did you skip Jackie?
We took that off the
We
agenda,
tabled
James.
Jackie's. She does not have an update tonight, James.
Jackie, are you coming back in June then?
There is no data available.
So I'm sorry, I apologize because I came in about half an hour late. So there's no data that would allow us to make any kind of informed decisions about what kind of bicycle safety programming does or doesn't work. Is that what I'm hearing?
The question that I was posed was, my understanding was if there was other projects that we were discussing, which was the video or the trailer, is there any data on that? So I sent the links to John and Scott for the NHTSA website. That's all the data that's available for the country.
So that wasn't my question.
Well, then that was the question that.
What is your question, James?
So my question was, if Jackie, if you were to reach out to NHTSA, what can NHTSA tell us about what data, what research, what evidence is out there about whether there is whether we know there is any kind of programming that we have evidence improves bicycle safety? It can be anything, not just things.
Yes, there are countermeasures that work, and that was in the email that I sent to John and Scott.
So, hey, James,
Those are
why
the
don't you just look
provisions.
at the email that she had sent to Scott and then go from there?
Could we also bring, I'm happy I don't think I got the email. I'm happy to read it, but it seems like it might be interesting to talk about it, to have the council talk about it for a few minutes. I mean,
I don't know, since we've already tabled it for now. I mean, how about you just look at the email, and then if you think it needs to come back in June, this is just my suggestion. It's up to Scott. And then after you look at it, if you think it needs to come back, it could be added to June's agenda.
okay, Jackie, if there's something that we could be doing that we're not doing in Delaware and that would help, could you tell us about that in June?
NHTSA has the countermeasures that work. That doesn't necessarily mean that it would work in Delaware. So the NHTSA website has suggestions, but that's not necessarily going to work in Delaware. Those are recommendations that NHTSA has.
Could you come back in June and talk to us? And so I know we've got the website and we've got NHTSA, but what I'm asking you is if, since you're a Delawarean, if you can come to us and say, here's the thing that I think might or will work in terms of safety programming here in Delaware.
But James, are you asking just, maybe I need clarification. It seems like you're just asking for her opinion.
Yep.
As in not Jackie from Office of Highway Safety, Jackie, Delawarean resident. So
I'll take either. I mean, it would be nice to have Jackie from Office of Highway Safety express her opinion.
Because she has to be careful on that.
Thank you, John.
Because what she says could be misinterpreted as her saying it on behalf of Office Highway Safety, and I don't think she or her supervisor would want that to occur. So she's on a fine line on what you're asking. So
I get that. And here's where I would normally say, I don't want to put you on the spot, right? That would be the polite thing, but the reality is I kind of want to put you on the spot.
I think you
A little-
already done it, James.
A little
Well,
bit.
She's not going to
James,
allow you
I'm
to
not
do.
going to be put on the spot. My
Well-
understanding of the role for Office of Highway Safety on this council is to provide information and education.
Can you do that for us next June? Can you tell us what the Office of Highway Safety thinks about safety programming for bicycles?
We have numerously told the Bike Council that they can submit a proposal that the Office of Highway Safety will review. And if we feel that there is enough information, that it'll be reviewed. And then if our office thinks there's enough information, then we go and put an amendment in to NHTSA. That is the process.
Yeah, I was hoping you would be a little more assertive in terms of like helping to
We move on.
guide the council.
Yeah,
in-
so,
in a
Well, you
productive
gotta
direction.
keep in mind, James, she's, they have she has to be careful, so on how,
Well, I
what
took-
she says and.
I took a shot, so thank you for letting me advocate.
James, how about if we look at the website and then maybe we can come up with something for the next meeting? And if we're gonna ask Jackie to talk, then we can talk to her ahead of time.
I've been the executive director of Bike Delaware for 10 years. I have an enormous number of opinions about bicycling. If you give me whole 2 hours of the council, I can talk to the council for 2 hours about all my various opinions. However, one thing that I'm genuinely uncertain about is what do we know about sort of, education type programming, in terms of its effectiveness. I'm genuinely uncertain about what, the research says and what, the literature says. And so that's what I was hoping to learn something that I don't know.
Okay.
Right. So, Mike Frumrine, do you need to share your screen for your presentation?
Not for the Gordon's Pond stuff. I just have an update on what's
Okay.
going on.
No problem.
So I know this has been a hot topic with widening the elevated boardwalk for Gordon's Pond. State Parks is actually in the process right now of signing on with RK&K to do a feasibility study. Presently, there's about an 8-foot clear width span for that boardwalk. And we're hiring RK&K to look at alternatives to hopefully get that up to at least a 12-foot width clear span. The kind of the thinking is if we go much wider than 12 feet, the pilings that are there now probably are not going to be sufficient to support the larger structure. So we would kind of be back to driving more pilings, and that gets into other issues. The plan is to try to come up with a way to do it and utilize as much of the existing structure that is there now as possible, and still try and get it up to about a 12-foot clear width span. I can tell you that is in the works right now. It has not officially started, and that's only because they're in the process of pushing the paperwork through, but that should get started very shortly.
When do you think that's gonna be done, Mike? I mean,
I don't know what the time frame on that is. I'll get you some feedback on that next week, because I don't know for sure when they're going to be starting yet.
but if it was to be feasible, I mean, that's probably like a couple of year project type of thing.
Yeah, probably. I know there's no funding to take any
Okay.
plans that they come up with to the next level. So, we'd have to see what they suggest, determine whether that's going to be feasible to move forward with, and then start figuring out how to pay for it. And I'm sure it's not going to be cheap.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Up next, I will stop sharing because up next is the new to Glasgow Bike Trail, and Vince is going to be doing that presentation. So let me do stop share now. Vince, it's up to you.
Thank you, John, and thank you everyone for having me here tonight. It's a great honor to be with you, and I will be brief and hopefully efficient in sharing some information so that I can hear your feedback and spend most of the time doing that. I represent the Friends of Cooch's Bridge Historic Site, which is an area just outside of Newark. About 200 acres is an overall property. 10 acres of the property was purchased by the state of Delaware in 2018. Our Friends group was formed in 2020 to advocate for the state-owned portion of the historic site and also for the lands surrounding it in one way or another. When we look at that particular area south of Newark, one of the things that jumped into our minds as a Friends group fairly obviously was that there's a real opportunity for some kind of property link for biking, pedestrian access, and even for bicycle commuting that could get us across I-95 and help us connect Newark, not just to the other side of 95, but all the way to Cooch's Bridge. I'll share my screen and show you two different drawings. And here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Let me, for some reason, it's not going this, move this, sorry. Will not let me make that whole, can you see the whole thing or do you have half of it? Well, doesn't matter. Here's what we have is that if you look, here's Glasgow Park, Iron Hill Park. That's what we started thinking about. The Cooch's Bridge land, the Cooch family land is right here, this whole green spot. The 10-acre state-owned parcel is here. We'd have to do something to acquire or gain access to the Cooch family land. Once the county started looking at our idea to go Glasgow to Iron Hill, why not find some ways, possibly plural, to get across I-95? So that is the rough idea. And once you come onto Cooch's Bridge here, you could also go Iron Hill, you could go straight, you could go out 72. I will share another document with you here, which makes it a little bit easier to understand. Share screen. This one, this is the polygons map that shows us ownership. Glasgow Park, you can see here, county owned. Iron Hill Park, also county owned. The yellows are Denrec. These red outline polygons here are currently Gore. They're in, they're under contract right now to be sold to a development company. There's some opportunity there. This is a privately owned Delmarva parcel. And then here, I'm told this color is maroon. These solid maroon polygons are owned by the Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs, and the maroon polka dots are owned by the Cooch family. So you can see that with, I'm not saying it's easy, but with relative simplicity, we could be able to link through government-owned property, most of it, all the way around and even over 95, the way the other document showed. We have an obstacle here at Sunset Lake because that is under an access agreement with a private group. They're not interested in this, so we will work around it instead of going through. But there's a way possibly to work around going through on these privately owned sites here and possibly just going out onto a special bike lane on 72 for a little bit and then sweeping back in and coming around. The state and the county each contributed $100,000 for a total of $200,000 for a feasibility study that is has been put out to RFP. The engineering firm, I think they're in the process of negotiating the final details with the firm that will do the feasibility study. There will be lots of opportunities for public input. But one of the things that we find compelling about this, again, relatively, there are few neighbors and citizens who would express deep concern about this because we're not going through a development where there's 100 right-of-way arguments that we have to have. So that is our rough idea. and I'm happy to take questions. And particularly, I would love to hear you're the experts in all this. I'd love to hear your feedback, your opinions, and thoughts that I can share to my group, and as we try to build a coalition supporting an idea like this moving forward. And thank you for your time.
Hey, Vince, this is John Fiore. I mean,
Hi, John.
are you aware of, like, there's a DelDOT project for the I-95, 896 interchange?
Yeah, our friends group is identified as a consulting party
Okay.
in the Section 106 process for that. So we are aware of it, and
Okay.
aware also that there's the potential of a bike path of some sort going across as part of that new flyover arrangement. We want to make sure that it links up with this this other possibility and does so in a way that's not obstructive.
Okay, and then also, I think it's only in concept, but there's also a potential project at Old Baltimore Pike and Old Cooch's Bridge Road intersection.
We've also been named a consulting party in that one, but as far as I know, as you said, concept only at this point. We know it's coming, but we don't know what it's going to look like, or whether or not it includes a bike trail and what it does to the very important historic district there.
Yeah, I've seen concept plans, and they are trying to incorporate a multi-use path. But I just wanted to throw that out there to make sure you're aware of those, which you are. So that's all I had.
I appreciate it, and you're a step ahead of me, having seen those Old Baltimore Pike plans. Thanks, John.
Hey, Vince, do you want to, I know we can't bring the council on a tour of the property the way you took me on a tour.
Why not?
Well, actually, yeah, you can invite everybody to join you on a tour, and I would recommend it. But maybe you could just give a little, little picture of, of what it's like, on the property there. I know I told you how much of an eye opener it was for me.
James and I talked yesterday. He made the comment that when he came down to Cooch's Bridge, it was no longer looking at a map from above, but actually seeing what it looks like. The road that is Old Cooch's Bridge Road, we all know it stops there at Old Baltimore Pike and just goes right and left on 72. There's actually an older part that's now shut down, still owned by the state, but no longer used for transit. You make a little dog leg and up a driveway. It's on private property. It used to be, until 1938, when 896 was built, it was the road into Newark. It's how you got into Newark. And so when James and I walked down it, looking at it from the standpoint of a bicycle possibility, we couldn't help but think, and I think he was, moved by it, that couldn't help but think that, all we have to do is return it to the way it was. It could be a road across I-95 again, and that could be something that's very compelling. There's an opportunity possibly to go under. There's another way to go down a little bit and over. And these are all things that the county and state are looking at in their feasibility study. But the opportunity to revive a historic road that still has many historically significant components, including 1940s rails. They have the original, I love this stuff. They have the original guardrails from when the highway was built in the 1910s or 1920s, so when it was done then. Those original guardrails are still there as a significant historic impact. And to be able to bike on this the way it was and use it for the intent that the road was originally supposed to have, which was going into Newark, is kind of a compelling mix of past and future.
Didn't you tell me, maybe I misheard or misunderstood, didn't you tell me that the road is still owned by the public?
The road, yes, the road is still owned by the public, but it's on Cooch family land. Or it bisects Cooch family land.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, Scott?
I said it looks like a pretty cool project. We had a grant application from the county 2 or 3 years ago to do that entire trail from Newark down to Lumps Pond, I think. Wasn't that what it was, James?
Yeah, yes. I may be wrong about this, but Vince, but I had thought the contract was actually awarded to RK&K.
I don't know the exact status of it right now.
It's another-
I believe that's correct. I don't believe the contract has been signed.
This is another example of how fortunate Newcastle County is to have such interested leadership right at the top of county government.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was, was as simple as we pulled a group of legislators together. Eric Morrison, one of our representatives, latched onto this idea. He engaged Matt Meyer and pitched the idea of splitting a feasibility study. 100,000 came from the bond bill last year, and 100,000 came from Matt Meyer's discretionary fund, or from some kind of county fund, and they got moving. And
Yeah,
so, this summer and fall, we expect to see some real activity.
Thank you for that. That's another, I mean, I hope everybody on the council knows this, but it's really can't be repeated often enough. I mean, there was, in addition to County Executive Meyer's interest at the county, Representative Morris, State Representative Morris, he got basically, an earmark for this project to get off the ground. And, having that kind of, passionate interest from a state legislator, again, makes just all the difference.
Would the count? I'm sorry, Scott.
I said I was going to ask Vince if he can come back and give us an update when he's got some more stuff to look at.
I would love to give you an update, and I'd also love to pick up on James' idea that if the council would be receptive to a private tour, I'd be happy to provide one for you on behalf of the Friends. We just have to find a date.
Great.
And I can issue that through James if it's okay, or maybe John, if you're the coordinator, I can issue that through you. But I'm happy to follow up by email to formalize that invitation.
I think either one of us, but if you want to go through me, that I'll be okay with that.
Okay, great.
And Vince, is that something that you would ride or drive or walk or what?
On the tour?
Yes.
What we would love to do is show you the homestead section, the part that's owned by HCA. And we would then drive onto the old Cooch's Bridge Road. We could walk it. If people want to bring their bikes, they could bike. But we would probably plan to walk it a bit and get up to there's a historic dam there, right where old Cooch's Bridge Road meets I-95.
It does sound like a very neat project.
Thank you, Tom. We think it could have a good impact south of Newark. And for the connectivity of biking, even in a commuter way, all across the state.
Any other questions for Vince?
If not, I would just like to say thank you to James and recognize what pleasure it is to work with him, and what a leader he is seems to me to be for bike advocacy in Delaware. He really latched onto this and has been very helpful to me and to the Friends, even including me in this meeting tonight. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Your leadership is amazing on this.
Thanks a lot, James. Good luck, everybody. Let's bring some Denmark and Netherlands to the state of Delaware. Bye-bye.
James, did you just need to talk, or did you need to share a screen, or are you just going to discuss the summit?
Let's just try a slide or two, if you let me share.
All right, let me stop share, and you're good to go.
Let's see if this works. There it is. Sorry about that. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yep.
So, for I think more than a decade, really, there has been this sort of discussion or concept around traffic safety that has a couple of different names. It's sometimes referred to as toward zero deaths. In other contexts, it's sometimes referred to as Vision Zero. Whatever you call it, it's this idea that, basically, we shouldn't be complacent about the number of people who are killed as part of our transportation system. And in fact, we should set aggressive goals to reduce traffic fatalities. So we've been doing this spring conference before the pandemic. We did 8 of them from 2012 to 2019. They were called the Walkable, Bikeable Delaware Summit, and we're kind of proud of a lot of the things that we brought to Delaware through that conference. Post-pandemic, we're going in a slightly different direction. We're going to have what we call the Everyone Gets Home Summit. We're not going to call it the Vision Zero Summit because we think that's sort of hard to understand what we're talking about. So the name of the summit is Everyone Gets Home. And the basic idea is that traffic deaths are not, see, this is perfect. See, I made a mistake because it's not traffic deaths are no inevitable. I should have typed traffic deaths are not inevitable. But even if I could have done that on purpose, right? Because it's a perfect illustration of what the conference is going to be talking about, which is that we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Every single human being makes mistakes. But those mistakes, our fallibility, should not lead to human fatalities. And this was a quote from US DOT Secretary Buttigieg just a few weeks ago when he was introducing US DOT's new safe systems approach to traffic safety. And this is just a little graphic that kind of explains sort of the traditional way that our traditional approach to thinking about traffic safety, and safe system is sort of in some ways turn some of that 180 degrees on its head. It's a different way of thinking about traffic safety, much more proactive, and in particular, getting away a little bit from the idea that the way forward is to try to make us more perfect. So try to spend a lot of money on education and enforcement to change our behavior, but rather to acknowledge that mistakes are inevitable, errors in judgment are inevitable, but we should put systems in place to reduce and mitigate the consequences of those errors and mistakes. So among the sessions, we'll certainly be hearing from Federal Highway Administration about this new federal initiative called Safe Systems. So as always with these things, it doesn't cost anything to attend, but if you want to attend, please register. Can you see the registration link on your screens, or should I say it?
I see it.
So let us know, if you, as always, we provide a catered lunch, and so we need to know how many people are coming. So please register if you'd like to come. That's all I got.
And then James, real quick, if I hadn't told you already, I already put this on the Delaware Bicycle Council website under what's new.
Okay.
So
did you put it in the Del.Dot newsletter?
not yet, but it will be.
Okay, great.
So yes. I got, in fact, thank you for reminding me. I got to get that done this week.
Secretary Majeski will be there. I don't know if she'll be there the whole day, but she'll be at least be there in the morning to sort of help welcome the conference.
Okay.
Oh, I should mention one other thing. So last year, I think there were 132 fatalities in Delaware, traffic fatalities in Delaware. That's the largest number of traffic fatalities since 2006. It's a record, 15 record. And so far this year, I believe if you look on Office of Highway Safety website, we're running roughly 100% over what we were for the same period last year. So even though last year was a 15-year record in traffic fatalities, 2022, we are on pace to, we're doubling our terrible year last year. The word that Secretary Buttigieg used is crisis. So that suggests to me that this is a very timely conference.
Thanks, James. You got anything else on that?
I could talk for another half hour, but I think that's probably enough.
Yeah, we're running out of time, so. All right, so the next item was the Dover bike loop, and that was me, and I'll provide an update on that next time because I want to get on to a couple things on old business since we're running out of time, because Mike Wagner and Mike Crumrine have done some work and they deserve their opportunity to talk. So first is Mike Wagner on the safety initiative.
So good evening, everyone. I appreciate everyone taking the time. It's late in the meeting. I appreciate your attention. I tried to keep this one, there's some discussion earlier about, you don't want to offend anyone. And when you put someone on the spot, it can be problematic. So, this is not my recommendation from the Delaware Department of Education. This is kind of Mike Wagner's thoughts on this. Again, I think it hopefully will might create a little bit of discussion. So recommendations for consideration with DelDOT's bike trailer. So when we met in a committee, we said, hey, what would happen if we got a bike trailer? And DelDOT said, hey, we have a bike trailer and we use it with various groups in the summertime. And we used to be at 3 schools, but now we're just at 1 school. So that's a picture of the bike trailer that's there. It's a nice little bike trailer. It has bikes, stop signs, safety equipment. I assume there are vests in one of those. So let's go to the next slide, please. Again, DelDOT has a practical bike trailer to present to groups of young people throughout Delaware. According to DelDOT, and again, this is what I got from our committee meeting, that prior to the pandemic, the bike trailer made presentations during the summer to various groups of young people. And these presentations were also presented to several schools during the school year. Again, what I heard, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but they were in, I think, 3 to 5 schools, but with changes in some schools' staff, that number was reduced to about 1 school. And that happens from time to time. And DelDOT has a very solid bicycle lesson that they can present to schools. When I heard the presentation, I thought that was, okay, great, we have this. And this was something that I don't think the bike council, that some people on the bike council were aware that we had. I know I wasn't aware that this existed. Next slide, please. So I'm going to make some comparisons here in maybe how to get this information out. So the health and PE teachers have a professional development day every October. And my thought is, could DelDOT request to be on their agenda to present what they can do for schools with regards to bicycle education? And I'll make a correlation now to what's done in driver education. And you can see that there's some potential for success and influence here. So next slide, please. So DATE has a new driving simulator, and it was presented to the driving instructors statewide during the October Driver Education Professional Development Days. And the next bullet, that's me. The Education Associate for Driver Education also sent out DATE's information to all the driver education teachers statewide. So if I come across something worthwhile, it goes on my list that I send out that, hey, these are 5 or 6 resources you can bring in to your classroom. So not only do the teachers get it in an email, and I'm not the type of person I don't send out 100 emails a week to the driver education teachers. I'm very selective about when I send an email out so that people don't just hit delete. They actually go to the email, and I hopefully put out, they're spaced enough apart to say, If he has something to say, I'm going to read the email. So, and again, that along with the actual simulator, which is really cool, that the driver's education teachers and I got to participate in. The simulator is really a really cool experience that's worthwhile to get into. Okay, next slide. What did that result in? The date driving simulator has 11 scheduled visits to various high schools across the state for this school year. Okay, so when you consider that this is kind of a 10th grade thing, this driver education is a 10th grade thing for the most part, that there are only about 65 plus high schools in the state. And that's about a 15% success rate of obtaining access to schools. Now, what we don't know is in year 2, will those schools want that simulator to come back? And if date comes back and presents again, maybe they pick up more schools. If the presentation is good, the thing is more schools will bring in that there's a possibility that more schools would bring the date simulator into their schools. So I think that can kind of correspond to if if the bike trailer that's currently has, if there's a nice presentation, a nice display, if they were able to go on the agenda and present to the PE and health teachers, that maybe that you could have a similar type of increase and you could build from, instead of having 1 to 5, maybe you could have a lot more, because there's certainly a lot more elementary schools out there than there are high schools. Okay, next slide. So another question is, should the bike education lesson presented to kids focus on a specific age group? James sent me some information. If we could go to that link and just see, so this is in the Netherlands. I thought it was really cool. And they focus on 10 and 11-year-olds.
A lot of signs in that video.
Again, if looking at that, that video can run, again, you can see that 200,000 kids ages 10 and 11 participate in this yearly. And if you look at what you saw, they were out in real traffic. They had safety vests on. They all had the same type of bike. I mean, I think it's an example of what could be. And I don't know that it could happen tomorrow or next month. But again, if you take it's a marathon, not a sprint. Maybe this is something that the bike council should, hey, this is what goes in another country. Let's start a conversation. Okay, next slide.
Interestingly, none of those kids had helmets on.
I was going to say that, but I was like, no, better not.
Okay.
Come on, guys.
And then I guess if this idea was liked, or if and from what I didn't put this in there, I believe Del Dot said it in part of their plan. John, correct me if I'm wrong. And part of their plan is they want to figure out how they can get the bike trailer out more. Yes. That was one of their goals. So Del Dot wants to get the bike trailer out more. So these are some ideas in how I think they can get it out more. I think, Saber Collins, my counterpart, would be willing to assist in trying to get them on the agenda for October, but they shouldn't wait till September, to try and get on their agenda. Also, I think she would be open to sending, if she deemed the information appropriate, out to all the PE teachers. I think she would be favorable to that. And before I get to the last bullet, just to, well, how can the Delaware Bike Council further support the effort of Del Dot's bike education program? That's a question. Mm-hmm. And I think one comment from Saber Collins to me was, we also have to take into consideration that America is a very diverse place. And you may have a 10 or 11-year-old who can't ride a bike. And there are special kind of bikes that are built that assist with helping that person in that age group learn how to ride a bike. So those can, there needs to be some thought into how you fill out that trailer if it's, if we ever hit the mainstream. So again, those are my thoughts. Thank you for your patience. And if someone wants to discuss it or a little bit, or you want to pick up the discussion next meeting, that'd be great. But thank you.
Now, hey, Mike, this is John. Just to let you know, Del Dot does, like I said, does the bicycle rodeos at elementary schools. In fact, we have one this week at Clayton Elementary. And I'm all for trying to, get more schools involved, but if more should do it, I'm a one-person show, and my schedule would be if all these schools, and I'm not saying all at once, but if over time, more and more schools, what I see is we teach the teacher. So, if the schools are really interested in trying to do this for, continuous multiple years, then it would be such that, Del Dot could teach the teacher on how to do a bicycle rodeo, give them all the information they need to teach a bicycle safety class, to do a bicycle rodeo. And then really all they would need to do is contact me to schedule the bike trailer where, I could just drop it off at the school on whichever the day before, and then pick it up the day after. Now, if this program should really take off, there may be a need to purchase multiple trailers with the safety equipment. So that's something, to think about.
John,
yep, I'm done.
John, you brought up a very good point. That was in my notes about training the trainer. That was a big thing with Sabre Collins as well. Unfortunately, that didn't make it to the presentation. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and that's something that we should add to this slide, that a train the trainer would be is a very good option because of limited training personnel. And again, if I was I'm not a PE teacher, but if I was a PE teacher and I had the opportunity to get a trailer come in for the week and in the spring and teach biking to a specific age group, I would do that.
Okay. Yep. That's all I really wanted to say on that. So thank you.
Cheaper, do you want to say what you have put in the comments?
Scott, Mike,
Yep.
I'll do what I can because I got a very good relationship with well, I'm not very good on names tonight. Who in the hell is the superintendent of Cape Penelope? I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, we have been trying to, and we will accomplish this. That's the reason I mentioned the Cool Spring Fellowship Hall with enhanced internet. And it would be real easy to get a bike trailer down here at the school. I don't foresee any problem of getting a teacher or 2 or 3 involved in it. But you can use my name for Eastern Sussex County. And I'll do what I can, buddy. Ed Fulton, Mr. Superintendent. He must be doing something right. They don't try to throw him out every other year.
Sheeper, can you Sheeper sent out a chat while Mike was talking. Can you let everybody know what you said, Sheeper?
Yeah, so I work with Sabre as well. She's my DOE contact for health and PE for Pano. And I'm working with Shape Delaware, and they're the ones who are hosting the PE teachers, the health teachers for that professional development day. And so they're actively looking for presenters right now. So I think that's a great idea, Mike. And as far as train the trainer, I mean, that could be part of what that presentation is that day. I mean, I don't know how long it would take to actually train on this. So, but that could be an intro. It could be this is how you go about doing the training. This is how you go about getting me to come to your school. Because I know, like you said, John, it's just you. So absolutely, this is a great opportunity to partner with the Department of Education and with Shape Delaware, which is the professional society that supports health and PE teachers across the state.
Yeah, I mean, I have information on how to set up a bike rodeo. There's actually a YouTube video that's out there that shows how bike rodeos are conducted. So there's information out there, either in person or online, that that could be used for those who are interested.
Well,
yeah, I mean, that's what this day is about. It's about sharing those resources for the teachers who may not be aware of what's out there, whether it's free or at cost. But if they don't know it even exists, and there's an opportunity there for education for their students, I mean, I just think this is a great opportunity.
So John, would someone from the Department of Transportation be willing to be a presenter that day?
I mean, I would assume it would fall on me. So yeah, I mean, I don't see any issues why I couldn't do that.
Well, and also, but who was the other person that was at the last 2 meetings ago who commented? That might be an opportunity. Do you remember that gentleman from Del Dot?
Was that Paul Moser?
Possibly.
Okay.
And maybe maybe if you and Paul got together and worked out a presentation, I think the more the merrier, because he seemed very knowledgeable as well.
Yes. I mean, I could ask.
I might be able to find a volunteer from the bike council to go with you too.
Yeah, that's what I was also going to say. Is like since I would think we would want to have a member or maybe a couple members, but at least one member from the council be there as well.
I mean, I don't know what day this is, but I'd be glad. I mean, if we're talking about just going there to do that discussion, I might be able to go and kind of talk about how this all got started and give you guys an intro.
Okay.
Or Mike, if you want to do it, I don't know.
It's on the same day as the driver's ed professional development, so my first priority is to driver's ed that day. So
what date was that again, Mike? I'm sorry. What date was that again?
It's usually, and Shaber, I don't know the date for next year, but it's usually on what was called the statewide professional development day.
Yeah.
It's on a Wednesday.
I thought it was actually the Friday.
I'm sorry,
Columbus Day.
Correct. It's on the Friday for what we used to call Columbus Day.
Okay, so
it just hasn't been confirmed by DOE yet. But they're working on it. I mean,
okay, so it's in October.
Yeah.
It's October.
Okay, so all right. So that gives me some time to talk with Paul. I mean, Pam Steinbach had to leave, but I see her being in support of this as well.
And again, I'm at 100% behind the train the trainer model. If there are resources out there, I think that's a great model.
Okay, and that would give us plenty of time for Paul and I to come up with something, present it to the council to see how you like the presentation, if something needs to be added, deleted, or changed. So we're all on the same page. So, okay.
Oh, they just turned off the lights at my office. I got to go. Thank you, everyone, for the presentation.
Mike, that's awesome. Thanks for putting the work in to put that together and keep that initiative going.
All right, next would be Mike.
Mike,
he's got 2 minutes. No, just
you got 2 minutes. Do you want to go? Do you want
to? It's going to take probably more than 2 minutes.
Should we table this until next meeting?
That's fine if that's what you want to do.
Could we put?
People want to know about it, but I also don't want to keep people past the meeting time, and I don't think 2 minutes is going to be enough of the discussion anyway. So I don't know what everybody thinks, but
if we pushed it back to the next meeting, could you put some of the old business up first Like
Yes,
the Dover bike loop and Mike Crumrine's presentation?
yes. Yeah, I could do that. That wouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Does anybody object to that idea? Sorry, Bill, I know you were looking for an update. I'm sure Mike's done some cool stuff, so we'll get back to it.
And then this will not take long. So for project updates, I have tweaked this a little bit, so I'll go over them real quick. For double bridges, what we are doing is we're working with the local residents to solicit the input regarding this scope of the project. We're getting a lot of feedback from the public that they want more improvements in what the Trails and Pathway program can do. We're just proposing a 10-foot wide shared use path, but the residents along there, they want like a total build out of this roadway, which then pushes this into a capital improvement project. So, so we're going to seek some additional input from the public. And when we get that, the information has been sent out. And once we get that information back, we'll determine whether they want a path put in now, or if they want more improvements, this may be pushed to a capital improvement project. So that's where we are with this one.
Hey, John.
And, yep.
If you have 15 seconds, just about sort of what was the origin of this project? I mean, is this something that?
Well, this was requested by the local legislator. So the local legislator reached out to DelDOT, saying that there's a lot of bike pedestrian concerns on this roadway, and was wondering if some type of separated facility could be installed, which could be done under our Trails and Pathway program. But then when we went to the public, they were like, well, that's kind of not what we want. We want this road widened, we want shoulders, we want drainage fixed, which then pushes it out of our program and into a capital improvement program.
Hey, John, where is that? Where is the double bridges?
Double Bridges is kind of southwest of Ocean View.
Okay. Very good. Thank
Right
you.
where the Assawoman Canal is. It's just west of the Assawoman Canal. And it goes southwest all the way to Parker House Road, where this phase of the project is.
Just south of Bethany, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Was that Representative Gray or somebody else?
That'd be Gray and Hawker.
Did they put up any like CTF money or?
No, not yet.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Yep. And then real quick for each, this is new, the DelDOT project portal website. Kind of got the idea from James last time when he told me about the Delaware Avenue project website. If a project is on a DelDOT project portal website, I have added the website so you could click on and get the latest updates. I did that with the Delaware Avenue, which is currently under construction. If you want to see any of the interactive construction phasing maps, you can go to that website and get that information. Munchie Branch, we did the recommendation to award letter on April 5th. We have not had the pre-construction yet, but we anticipate construction beginning May this year and ending in August. And Capital City Trail Phase 3, the project has been advertised for acceptance of bids in March. So once we get those bids, then we'll go through the process and awarding the project. Cool Spring to Fisher Road. The project is to begin on April 18th and end in sometime in August. So that phase of the Georgetown to Lewis Trail will be in construction very soon.
John, is everyone on the council familiar with the governor's announcement that he wants to use new federal infrastructure funding to accelerate the completion of the Lewis to Georgetown Trail?
I do not know.
So there was a press release by the governor last week or so, and he said, we've got all this new, federal infrastructure money coming, and I want to do these, flood control projects and this or that. And he also mentioned finishing the Lewis to Georgetown Trail. So, John, I hope you can correct me. My understanding is that, that means, instead of looking at like another 5, 6, 7 years, we can look forward to the completion of the whole trail in significantly less time.
Okay. I am not aware. Have not been told anything about that. So I would assume that would be the intent. Yeah. Let's see. Augustine cutoff, nothing much to report from last time. Again, other than I added the project website. The coastal highway intersection improvement, Bill, this was the one you were referring to. So it's called the coastal highway intersection improvement. What's on the website is they anticipate construction in the winter of 2025 and ending in the winter of 2026. That's their projection. However, final plans and final plan distribution has yet to be determined. So that's all I have for that update, and that's right off the website. At one point, so that's, yeah, I'm sorry. So that's what I have for that project. And then Kings to Dartmouth, nothing changed since last time. Same with School Lane. And last meeting, it was asked about the Mifflin Road to Dover High School, Center to Bikeway Phase 3. I did add it. The notice to proceed was issued. However, we do not have a project schedule at this time. So when we do have something, obviously I'll update the information. And with that, that's all I have.
John, it's my understanding we're going to be getting hearing a little bit about the coastal highway. I don't know what we're calling it.
The feasibility study?
Yeah, the WRA is doing.
Yeah, my understanding is, yes, that will be an agenda item for June.
Thank you.
Okay. It's 7:07, guys.
Can I make one final comment?
Absolutely.
For those of you that never attended one of James' events, I've gone every May, and I found it a good experience, and I've got a very supportive administration ahead of me that lets me get out of work to go hear that. So I'm excited to attend James's 0 day in May, and I encourage all of you, if you could make it work, to get out of work that day to go learn some things. It's great stuff.
I'll be there too, Mike.
Don't forget to register, Mike, so we have some lunch for you.
Okay, this was brought to my attention that there were some questions in the Q&A, and I will admit I did not look at those. Let's see. Just looking through them right now. Let's see, Robin, I don't know if she's still here. Thanks for the information. I will reach out later. I am at Cyclone, okay. Karen Z was here. Let's see, I like to see if we can offer our parking lot to help at help in the future. Just, and Robin again, I am new to this call on both cyclists, unless there's very clear motorists. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to make sure we were all good for the Q&A. So do a better job next time on making sure to check those. So, all right, go ahead, Scott.
We're just looking for a motion to adjourn, unless anybody has anything else.
So moved.
So Walt's first.
Second.
Fran is second.
Third.
I know that Rob Roy in Florida appreciates it.
Okay. Does anybody object? Thanks, guys.
Good
All
meeting,
right.
Scott.
Thank you.
We'll have
See
some
you
more
later.
information next time.